Vithyaa, thank you so much for joining me. It's great to have you on.
Thank you for having me and the invitation as well.
Oh, not at all. I find what you do to be absolutely fascinating. So I thought I just would love to hear more about it. But before we get into your story, I would really love you to set the scene. What it was like growing up as a Tamil Australian early on when you were young. Like, what were the expectations for success in your life?
Oh God, that's going straight into the gender and cultural
Yeah.
stereotypes being Sri Lankan Tamil here. So I was born in Western Sydney. I'm a twin as well.
Yeah.
And so both my parents, because they effectively left Sri Lanka because of the civil war, they don't claim themselves as refugees.
Mm.
But at the same time, I would consider them doing so. And in saying that, they wanted us to do the very best we could because we came and they left a
Mhm.
country for a better beginning for having their own family. And what we have experienced, and it's not just myself and my sister, but my entire family, a lot of people I'm friends with, it's very stereotypical South Asian experience to go, you have to be a doctor, you have to be an
Mm.
engineer to be successful. And so when I pivoted and didn't do well, I would like to say pivoted, it was more like rebelled, in all honesty, especially growing up here, right? So I had a lot of Australian friends, and I went to a very Australian school, so there was hardly any people of color, so they didn't understand the culture and gender stereotypes that plagued being South Asian or Sri
Mm.
Lankan. And so when I rebelled, it was like they couldn't really do much. Eventually, they just gave up on me and realized this girl is just going to do what she wants. At least we've got one daughter that's, listening to us somewhat. And it didn't help that I had, my first cousins becoming doctors and engineers or following down that allied health avenue. But I think I just rebelled, and I think it was the best thing I ever could do. I followed my intuition and my gut, even though I didn't really figure out what I was doing till I was 23, 24.
Yep.
A lot of uni debt to show proof of that. But yeah, so it was very interesting growing up. And then the other thing was being bullied for the color of our skin as well, because I went to a very Anglo-Saxon or, white Australia school. There was hardly any people of color. And so I was bullied for the color of my skin. This usual stuff that I've not heard in a really long time, which is great. It's like the words like curry muncher and that sort of
Yeah.
stuff. Now if anyone says anything, I'm like, we just have great food and you know it.
Yeah. That's exactly right.
But the best thing is I haven't heard those words used in a really long time,
Awesome.
which is great to see. It shows that, multicultural Australia is actually thriving.
Hopefully.
Hopefully we'll see what happens.
Not get into the political events at the moment.
Oh,
So
we will not go down that rabbit hole.
no, that's all right. So did your sister, your twin, go on to do something that your parents approved of?
Yes, so she's a pediatric psychologist.
Oh wow. Okay.
And she now runs her own company and her own practice out in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And she serves the future generation, I'd like to say. And so I think the work that she's doing is really, really important. So yes, my parents, they didn't quite understand what psychology was till she was like, doing several years. And when I say several years, it's like basically a medical degree.
Yeah.
But they didn't quite understand. But when she got out of it and, she's starting earning a living and they've realized the amount of money she was making, they were like, oh, yep, you're successful now.
So you went against your heritage, you went against the role of a typical female and the extra pressure of a twin. Like, what was the drive? Like, can you think back or even go back to that moment where you went, stop this is not what feels right. Like, I'm going to do what feels right for me. Like, what was it that was driving you?
Okay, in all honesty, I was competing with my sister to beat her in the HSC.
Yeah.
which I did. So that was my driver during high school.
Yeah.
And then we both got into we got into the same uni, but then I was like, look, I want to go out on my own, as well. So I think I was still figuring it all out, to be really honest, like really, really still figuring it out. Nothing really popped out to me. And so that's why I did a Bachelor of Science, because I was like, they're going to be happy I did a Bachelor of Science. That opened so many doors and opportunities. And that's when I was thinking about doing medicine. And I was like, watching my cousins and everyone not attend family functions and not seeing them and going, well, what is the point in doing all this work and studying this hard when you don't really have a life? And then I did a deep dive going, they work a lot of hours, and the work that they do is amazing, but it's not for me.
Mm.
And my social life was way too important. Like, turning 18, that's the year we can start, formally
Drinking
legally
driving.
drinking and going out and, having fun with our friends and so forth. And I wasn't, we were still told we weren't able to do that. Like, my parents are like, oh, you can't go out, you can't drink, you can't do this, you have to be home by 10 p.m. We would obviously defy that. But I think I think all those experiences, like, going out with my friends and seeing other people do what they wanted to do made me realize, like, I need to figure out what it is. And so when I finished my Bachelor of Science, I took a gap year.
Yeah.
And I realized working in a pharmacy, this is not for me. Because when you do GAMSAT, you can do various options. It opens 4 different doors effectively within allied health and medicine as well. So that's when it opened all these doors, and I was like, this is really not for me. And then what happened was I looked at various degrees post-grad to enter in, and one of them was forensic science. And I was like, this is interesting. Let me see. Rang my mum when I got the actual approval to, attend UTS, which is University of Technology Sydney. And I'm also wearing the jumper today.
Hey.
Proud UTS alumni. And that's when I got into that program, and everything kind of fell into place from there.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a specific decision that kind of laid out that path. I did that degree, and then I did a subject called fire and explosions, and that's what started me in the fire industry effectively. And it
Sparked
just,
you, pardon the
yeah,
pun.
sparked me, ignited my interest, whatever puns you want to use. So that's what started it. And I'm really grateful. I had really nice mentors and teachers along the way. And I'm really, really grateful, because I don't know where I would be if I didn't do that degree.
How did your parents feel about this?
My mum, when I rang her, she said, when I got into UTS, my mum said, let's see what else comes in. And I guess from her perspective, no one knew what forensic science was at that point. It was just CSI, what you saw on the TV, and that was it. But I was like, let me just try this. I really, really want to try this. And so she was like, okay, but it was a discussion that we had.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm still going to do it. Whether you want me to or not, I'm still going to do it. I'm the one that has to pay my uni debt, and that was
Yeah.
that was the conversation. And so even when I formally finished my degree and I graduated, my parents both came to my graduation, they still didn't know, even though I had an internship locked in before I even finished that degree, they still were worried. And I guess it was because of the financial aspect of being a fire investigator. They didn't know what it was. I didn't even know what it was.
Yeah.
And for me, I enjoyed it that much that I was like, the money doesn't matter. And for Sri Lankan and South Asian parents, or any ethnic parents, money is a huge factor in driving someone's success, because obviously that allows you to, buy a house and, go on holidays and have the fancy luxurious cars, because that's what they all wanted. And that's a sign of, success and wealth.
Yeah.
But for me, success and wealth is enjoying what I do. Because if we don't enjoy what we do, then what's the point in doing it?
I agree. And I think if you follow what feels good, the rest looks after itself anyway.
Oh, yeah. I'm starting to see that now, which is great.
Yeah, it takes a while. It can. So, can you share with us what it was like walking into that room, forensic investigation, for the first time? Because you were such a minority in so many ways. So, what was that like?
When you say walking into the room, as in walking into university, or?
No, I mean, once you're out, you sent off your CV, and then you got a role, you got a job, and you walked into an environment that was male dominated, fire investigation. Like, it was so unique and so kind of obscure almost. It's such a niche area. And you're a woman of color. Like, what was that like? How did that feel for you?
It was interesting. But my employer didn't ask for my CV till much later on. I had the internship without the CV, which was great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And when I first entered basically a room full of fire investigators, when I was still doing my training, I was like, where are firstly all the women? And where are all my people of color at?
Yeah.
And I was used to the lack of people of color, but I was not used to the lack of non-females around me. And so there was a point where I was actually doing a lot of code switching. Now, code switching is when you do certain things to fit into the environment. So, you lean more into your male attribute sort of thing, and
Yeah.
you'd laugh at, remarks that wouldn't necessarily be appropriate,
Yeah.
possibly be quite sexist as well, just to fit in.
Mm.
And that was the early days. And then eventually I realized, because one of my mentors was a male, the other was a female. And then my male mentor, he basically said, women are such better fire investigators because you guys can multitask. And I was like, yeah, that's true. And so then I started, we rarely wouldn't really get into the same room as a lot of fire investigators. Like, we don't meet that often.
Mm.
But I was grateful to have really good mentors and support around me. And so when I started to go to more and more events, my experience and, being a fire investigator and showing that I'm actually surviving in the industry spoke volumes to my
Yeah.
male counterparts. In saying that, it is interesting when you go out on site and, men are like, oh, do you want me to hold something for you so you can climb up? And I'm like, no, because I'm used to working on site by myself. But
Yeah.
it was nice as well, right? Like,
Yeah.
chivalry is not dead,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is great.
And they're
But,
coming from a good place.
it came from a good place,
Yeah.
but it's also like, would he ask his male counterpart the same thing? Hey, do you want me to hold something for you so you can climb it up?
Yeah.
So that's always in the back of my mind. But now I'm so much better used to it. Or I just do a passing joke going, hey, would you ask the next man about this? Like, would you ask if someone else was with us, the same question? So I'm really good at questioning it now. But before, it was a little bit tricky.
Mm.
The other thing was, back in my early days, I was also a promotional model and promoting alcohol in bars and clubs. So I got used to
Yeah.
all those remarks. So that kind of gave me a bit of a backing in how to handle those sort of
Yeah.
environments and stand up for myself and back myself going, hey, this is not okay.
Mm. It's interesting, isn't it? Because I did the same thing. I worked for United Distillers and I did a lot of the promotion stuff. But it's also very different. A lot of the things that kind of you let fly back then, it's like sexual harassment now. It's like,
Oh,
but we were
we're
like,
so, I don't want to say sensitive is not the right word, but I think we have a lower tolerance,
yeah,
to excuse my French, to bullshit.
yeah,
Yeah.
way more politically correct too now, and also go, hang on, that's not okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, right. And then was it at that point you started, like straight up, did you start specializing in the IEDs, which is fascinating to me? And it's the improvised explosive devices, isn't it?
Yes.
So is that where you is it true? Is that what you got into straight up?
Yeah, so I don't specialize in it, but it actually got me interested. So as part of one of the labs at UTS doing the fire and explosion subject, we actually got to pull apart an IED, which is responsible for the Bali bombings.
Wow.
And I was like, this is cool. Like, I'm effectively looking at parts to build and possibly dismantle an IED. I'm like, this is so not okay. From a public person standpoint, like, that's really interesting to have access to that information. And that's when I jumped on the internet and sent 2 emails out. One to my mentor, and then one to another company who I think was likely kicking himself, going, why didn't I say yes to her?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's how I got my start.
Okay.
I can't say I've actually specialized in any fire investigation is so big.
Yeah.
It's really hard from an outsider to see how big it is because there's so many things we do. I'm considered an all-rounder. So I'm looking at fire investigations wherever a fire occurs. So it could be vehicles, your structures, like residential to commercial to industrial to, the big mining equipment, mobile plant machinery, done a few solar farms, like you name it. It's a really interesting job. But now I'm specializing and doing a bit more further study in electrical engineering.
Okay.
Because there is a gap between fire investigators and fire investigators who can comment on electrical causes,
Wow.
especially as an expert witness.
Yeah.
So some of the matters that we do receive eventually can go to court. And so to go to court and testify, you need to have the experience, but then also the skills and qualification to go, this is why I'm saying what I'm saying. And experience alone isn't going to do that much because it will get dismissed. So if you've got formal qualifications, it's always easier to back yourself going, look, I'm qualified. I've also got the experience and this is why I'm saying what I'm saying. And that way they can't rule you out as an expert because typically what they've done to me the few times I have testified is they try and dismiss me as an expert purely because of my age, my experience,
Mm.
as well. And so I normally have to show my CV and my qualifications and my university transcripts, have everything in front of me. And the most time they end up talking to me is about my training and qualifications
Mm.
and not actually about the case.
Yeah, right. Now, you've also been credited with um, looking at fire from a different perspective in terms of domestic violence and used as a weapon. Could you kind of explain that one a little bit to us as well?
Yeah, so domestic violence has been around for a really long time.
Yep.
It's only now being, well, not now, maybe in the last few years where it's actually being a current topic because of the escalation, especially across Australia, not just in multicultural communities. Now, when I say multicultural communities, because I'm also in the community space, domestic violence is massive across most ethnic populations because it's normal. In
Mm.
Australia, it's illegal, but in other countries, it's legal, like it's fine. And now the laws are actually, following and evolving to meet, it's 2026 and the
Yeah.
evolution of how females are treated. So, in saying that, I've been I don't want to say lucky, but I've been grateful to have had cases allocated to me that surround domestic and family violence, and that has been a cause.
Yep.
And being a female, especially in this space, when a male colleague of mine could have got the investigation, but may not have been able to get as much information because the victim is female. Um, it is quite troubling to hear. And that's why when I started to get more and more exposure to these cases, I developed a guide to help my male counterparts going, this is really important. Like, I see how they interview witnesses. I see how my
Mm.
colleagues interview witnesses. And, they're just there for one thing, origin and cause. But then they don't realize there might be someone and there might be some actual stuff happening in the background that we're not even privy to or aware of just by surface level looking at it. And so my first ever case that I did solo, like there was one that I did when I was training. And I remember being on my hands and knees smelling for accelerant in the basement, and there was an AVO out against the ex-partner.
Wow.
And I was like to my mentor at the time, I swear I smell something. Like this is like rubber disguises all smells. Like burning rubber
Mm.
is really good at disguising. But I was on my hands and knees smelling, and I was like, there's something here. And that's when we realized that we had forced entry. We also, the samples came back where I collect samples from when my nose was going, this is something off, there's something here.
Mm.
And those samples came back positive for ignitable liquids. And that helped that woman not only get her insurance paid out,
Yep.
because we could prove that there was, she had separated from her partner and all of that sort of stuff. But then also to prove the fact that someone had said it deliberately and she wasn't even living at the property at the time. She had moved herself and her family to
Thank
a
God.
safer location because of the escalating level of violence coming in from her ex-partner.
And does that result in him being charged?
Yeah.
Oh,
And so
wow.
that report itself was actually used by the police.
That's
Yeah.
fantastic because
Yeah.
you kind of wonder so many loopholes and circumstantial evidence, like whether that was enough, but that's brilliant.
Yeah. And there's multiple cases where I've done that. The police end up reaching out going, look, can you write a statement and also provide your report as well for us to use as evidence? Because the police, they do take samples, but they have a backlog. When you can imagine how many cases they're dealing with, they have a backlog. And for us, we get our sample results within like 2-3 days. And
Mm.
so our insurer clients are quite pleased with that in the fact that we're able to give them those results. But then I tell them, I tell the insured typically going, look, you're entitled to a copy of the report. You just got to ask your insurer and then you can use that
Right.
to help you with your circumstances right now.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So not only have you revolutionized the fire investigation area, you were also a businesswoman who started businesses with no business experience. Like you just have this incredible amount of tenacity and drive. But can you just walk me through? Because I know you started Fleur de Mer, the party planning company early on. What was that like? Because I know you were trying to do too. Walk me through a typical Tuesday when you were trying to run these,
Oh
do all
God.
this.
So I hid my events business from my employer at the time when I first started. And the reason I got into the events industry was because my engagement party did not happen the way, like I paid all
Mm.
this money and it just it just didn't hit my expectations. I was like, I'm supposed to have a big fat Sri Lankan Hindu wedding.
Yeah.
And obviously COVID hit, and so we couldn't do that. But at the time, we didn't know COVID was coming. And so we were planning for this big wedding. And I was like, I need this wedding to hit the mark. And I need it to be like the party of our dreams. Because our engagement party, everyone still talks about our engagement party. Minus the decor, they still talk about it. And so we had expectations. And so I put those expectations on myself going, okay, I need to get in the events industry because I cannot have this happen for my wedding. That's what started it. It wasn't even me going, let me fix a problem. It's like, I have my own personal problem. This is what I'm going to do to fix it. Learn about the industry and serve myself through my own business effectively. And so then so Mercer Fleurs started with like 2 flower walls. And I was like, why is it called Mercer Fleurs if it's only got 2 flower walls? And so I diversified the business into 2. So we started Sydney Flower Walls and then kept Mercer Fleurs, which is now the events house. And then I did all these other things in the middle, but an average Tuesday would involve, clients calling me, and I'd have to like sneakily take the phone, take a phone call or go, can I get back to you at like 4 or 5 o'clock? Because I might be on scene. And if I was on scene, I'd look at the phone going, oh my God, that's like potential client coming in. I have to do the best I can to answer them quickly before they go find someone else to do the same thing. And so I would hide everything.
Yeah, right.
But then I would normally go, look, can you drop us an email? Like there would be a message that goes out when I didn't have the time at all going, send me an email and we'll get back to you as soon as we can via email. And that made things so much easier. It's so much easier to hide.
Yeah, yeah. Wow, but it must have been exhausting. I mean, what was the moment where you went, okay, this is not sustainable. I'm going to have to change something here?
Well, the events business still runs.
Yeah.
Sydney Flower Walls, I sold just before I was due to give birth to my first child. I know I've only got one child.
Yeah.
So it was sold just before, because we realized Sydney Flower Walls had such an potential to be scaled further than what I was able to do, because obviously I was still working as a fire investigator. And at that point, I was also general manager and second in charge of the company. So I was like, this is a lot. But we were really careful in the bookings that we always took, because people would still want me to be there.
Yeah.
And so when they wanted me to be there, I would go, look, our books are closed. We're not taking any new clients, because we built such a client base. Like the events house has been running for 8 years, and we've had the same clients with us through that whole journey, which is amazing. And so those clients, we still serve them. I still go out to some of those events as well. So I'd love to say there was a point when I was like, I can't do it all, but I'm still doing it all.
It's full on. It makes me exhausted.
But in saying that, I'm really like, I'm being honest, like I'm quite strict on the amount of bookings that we take now.
Yeah.
Purely because like I'm a mum now, events happen across the weekends, Fridays to Sundays. And so I'm really picky on what I take on. And I've got a good team supporting that business as well, which is amazing. Yeah. But the priority is eventually to move out of the events industry. I just don't have the heart to do it, because it was the thing that got me onto my entrepreneurial journey. I have a soft spot for it, and I don't want to miss my clients. Like, I've seen their kids grow up. I've also seen them celebrate 25 years, 30 years worth of 30 years in marriage. And so that's beautiful to be a part of those celebrations as well.
It's also a really creative outlet too, I imagine. So
yes. Fire investigation is dirty. And so the events is very pretty and very aesthetic. And I've, picked up a few floral trades here and there, so I can put together a bouquet if I need to.
Quite the contradiction, really. So, but it's not only just working in fire investigation. You've started your own business in that as well. So, and then I think it's the first woman of color to ever own a fire investigation business. Is that right?
Yeah, from my understanding, I've had a few people reach out saying congratulations and stuff like that. I've had previous staff members going, oh my God, finally you're out on your own. Like this was meant to be for you. But it was quite sad when I did start the business, because I was supposed to buy into the previous company, and then there was a falling out between me and my ex-employer. Still a bit frosty there, but it's all happened for a reason. And being now my own boss, and I still call myself funnily unemployed, technically. And to still say that and go, look, I'm now able to control all my time, and what I put my effort into is amazing. And then, produce work that is up to my standard for my clients, for my forensics business, but then also for my events business because of the time I have now. It's amazing. Like I've had a few clients that follow me across as well. And that was not intentional. When I left, I had a very strict non-compete, couldn't approach anyone,
Yeah.
had to fight for my ability to work in, as a fire investigator in Australia as well. So it was a whole Fair Work debacle, but then eventually clients were like, hey, where is she? Like, and then they found me on LinkedIn and then they reached out going, hey, like, we want to give you some work because we loved what you did for us before.
Fantastic. And I think that's testament, obviously, to the attention you pay to detail and what a great job you do. So it was, makes sense by the sound of what you're doing. And then
Yeah.
we have, on top of that, in case this isn't enough, you started Brown Boss Babes, and it also has two other groups, which is the
Rising Ranis and the Brown Brotherhood.
Yes, for young people and for men. Just talk us through, how this has evolved and what purpose it's serving right now.
So Brown Boss Babes was started when I started my entrepreneurial journey, obviously hiding it at the same time.
Wow.
And it was started because I'd go to all these networking events because, I had no business experience. So I was like, I need to learn everything there is about business. I'm still learning. 8 years in, I'm still learning. I will forever still be learning because everything's always constantly changing, especially in the world of AI. We're not going down that rabbit hole.
No.
But in saying that, so I would go to these networking events and be one of the only women of color. And that wasn't an issue because obviously, I open my mouth and my accent is very Australian. And so I'd be able to talk to, being Australian and growing up and all that sort of stuff. But then they wouldn't understand the cultural and gender stereotypes of starting your own business and especially in the events industry and, doing something that wasn't deemed successful. And so my parents were like, you have no business experience. This is not going to last. Like the business venture is not going to last. If anything, it's just going to be a massive money pit for you. And so that's when I started Brown Boss Babes because I realized like people would start reaching out going, oh, V, like, I've got a business too. And I was like, I had no idea because everyone was hiding it. Because, they were accountants by day and then doing really cool creative things outside of their work hours. And so I created that community because I was like, let's give a space to the brown women or the South Asian women or women of color effectively doing something that is for them, that is creating their own businesses, which is very male dominated for South Asians. Like back then there was hardly any female entrepreneurs. And if they were, they weren't as amplified within their own community. Like they weren't as celebrated. I think those are the right words. They weren't as celebrated. And so I wanted to be able to do that, bring women together that have similar circumstances in terms of growing up and expectations, but then also were fighting to start their own businesses and wanted to start their own business and control it as well. And so that's when Brown Boss Babes came to be. And now it's a national program operating across the country, which is amazing. And then after 7 years of nagging, my husband finally said yes to running the Brown Brotherhood. And so that operates across Sydney and Melbourne. And then there was 2 young girls at a gender equity conference I was speaking at a private school last year. And they came up to me and were like, is Brown Boss Babes for us? And I was like, yes, but then no, because, we also do the fun thing, like, go out to really cool bars, in cities and, have a really good time, but they can't do that because they're under 18. So then we realized there is a gap. And I realized when I was that age, can you imagine what we would be able to have done if we had something for them by us? And when I say by us, by South Asian women for the younger generation. And so that's when Rising Ranis came to be. And we've only hosted one event in Sydney, and that was for Valentine's or Galentine's, so to speak. And the girls just wanted to get together, meet each other, but then also it was a way for us to get feedback on what they wanted. And so we realized they want unbiased advice from, professionals, creatives, founders that, weren't related to them, but to have a free flowing conversation that is, there's no expectations. It's safe, judgment-free zone going, look, and if one of them said, I want to be a dancer, let's put them in that, let's help them on that pathway to do so. So that is what Rising Ranis is, because that generation, the next generation, they're our future leaders. And so what we can do to support them is, give them access to information, to people, mentors, but then also give them the access to understand, how to be better leaders, but then also staying true to, you know, what you identify as your cultural background as well, because it can
Yep.
be quite tricky growing up in Australia and having that South Asian mix there as well.
Absolutely. And do you think, because you said there's so many of them that were, have their regular acceptable jobs, 9 to 5, and then doing these amazing creative things outside. Do you think that is still because of the cultural pressure that they have to keep that other creative, maybe, love of theirs just a little bit on the side? Is that?
Yeah, I also think which is why Brown Boss Babes is great because we're starting to do more of this, but there is also that lack of ability to back themselves
Yeah, right.
because someone's always been in the back of their ear going, this is not going to be successful.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's why Brown Boss Babes, the existence of it is so important to remind them that they can. And I remember when I was going through that tough time with my employer going, I'm the founder of Brown Boss Babes. Like, I need to gather my confidence and strength to stand up for myself and fight for what's mine. Otherwise, I'm going to go out and create it myself, which is what I've done. And so to tell these women that, you know, I am the proof that is in the pudding, if that's the right way to say it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, if that's the right way to say it. But if if I can do it, they can do it.
Yeah.
And we want to be able to give them the skills to scale their businesses. So this year we're focusing very much more on business. So we have monthly business roundtables to give them the skills to talk about the issues that are plaguing their business, whether it be, which is commonly social media and marketing at the moment and
Yeah.
funding, but how to circumnavigate that and overcome those barriers so they can scale their businesses and eventually walk away from that full-time employment going, I can now put all my eggs in this basket and grow my business the way it's supposed to and actually enjoy what I do day to day and not just enjoy what I do for half the day.
Yeah.
And that's what we're starting to see. And that's not just for like South Asian women. We're starting to see that across all women entrepreneurship. Like
Mm.
women are wanting access to information that's going to help them scale their businesses because they're wanting to leave those workforces that are no longer serving them or
100%.
employers that are taking them for granted and not treating them fairly and appropriately and so forth. So I have hope in women entrepreneurship. I believe women-led businesses do a lot more greater work than the male-dominated businesses because females think both like with their emotions, but then also in consideration of others as well and their teams, which is why women-led teams tend to do rather well.
I think also women feel like it's not an easy part. They have to prove more. And so therefore maybe they've got that extra work ethic, that grit that they go, it's not just I'm going to do this. Like men often have an easier path. It's women are like, have to forge their way through. And I mean, you are just the perfect ambassador for these women. But anyone who's run their own business would also know or started anything. It's not easy. So there's a lot of work that's been going on behind what you've done and a lot of courage. And did you ever have moments of doubt where you went, crap, I'm not sure this is going to work or?
Oh, yes, 100%.
Yeah.
I think I hate the word imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
But that always gets tossed around.
Yeah.
And then now what I do is to overcome that, I've got like a little note on my phone of everything I've achieved,
Yeah.
or every accolade or every minor celebration that I've ever celebrated, like, you know, possibly getting like every time I've gotten a client that's come over from my previous role, I've written that down and I read
Awesome.
through that going, okay, this is what I've done. So why am I like second guessing myself? And I also tell the community as well. I tell all women, like, if you're second guessing yourself, write down everything you've achieved and look at that when you're having a bad day.
That is such good advice. And it's just celebrating those little wins that add up. And
Yeah.
they're contributing to your success along the way. Because I take my hat off to you. It's amazing what you've done in all of these areas. Like, it's just incredible.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm curious, though, what's a version of your story that you haven't told publicly?
Um, the fight, really.
Yeah.
There has been a lot of personal issues as well. And I think that's what's made me the person I am today. So publicly, I've not actually mentioned this, but not on speaking terms with my father at all. I don't think he really, like, even when I was becoming a fire investigator, I don't think he really still understands what I do. But
Yeah.
I know he's one of a couple, he's got multiple siblings, and all of his siblings know what I do. which is great.
Mm.
And so I know that they're communicating to him about, what I'm doing and the stuff as well that they're seeing on my social media and stuff like that. Like I know they're reporting back. And I know that some of them actually do listen to, my podcast, and I'm sure they'll listen to this episode as well. So it took me a while to realize my father didn't really have, like, I didn't have the support from him that I needed. And so putting that boundary in place and so forth kind of protects me from that energy as well. And then, I've put a lot of boundaries in because being a South Asian person, there wasn't as much boundaries, especially when I became married and then a mother as well. So you have a lot of people commenting on various things. I still have people commenting, but I choose not to listen, which is why I've got really strong boundaries. And so I tell a lot of women who go through the same thing in terms of their personal stuff, when they're saying this family member is being way too involved and I just need to put a boundary in place. I'm like, put a boundary. They don't need to know that boundary is there, but it's how you interact with that person. If you don't answer back or you just nod your head and, say, yes, I'm listening to what you're saying, but really I'm not taking it in. That is a boundary.
Mm.
And that is really important because we have a lot of people commenting on, all parts of our lives. And I think it's important to keep those boundaries in place so we can continue doing what we're doing. If I still had, my father calling me going, hey, can you come help me with this? Which is the only reason why he ever called me.
Mm.
He would never call me just to check in or check in on my son or see his grandson. He would only call me when he needed something. So when I realized that was the relationship, I was like, this is not serving me. I'll see him at family functions and that's about it.
Yeah. No, I understand that. And I think our family often have their own agendas, and it isn't always with our best interest at heart, unfortunately. You think that
Yeah.
should be a hand in hand with family, but it's not.
I saw that actually last week. So I spoke at Blacktown Girls High School, and that's in Western Sydney.
Mm.
And they had a sort of a discussion session happening, which is all about networking with other industry professionals that were there for them to have, possible mentorship opportunities come in and they could talk about career and get career advice. And a lot of them already knew what they wanted to do. And then I would ask them, so is this something you want to do or your parents want you to do it? And 80% of the time, it was because their parents wanted them to do it. And so I said to them, like, so if you didn't do what your parents asked you to do you know what you would want to be? And they didn't know because they were growing up within that same, what I grew up with, with that perceived expectation to do the stereotypical thing. And that's still happening, which is quite sad. I've seen that across private schools as well. I've had teachers, like, because I speak regularly at some certain schools, and I have people like the teachers telling me, oh, it's so good that you're giving them this advice because a lot of these kids are just doing what their parents want them to do. And so I think that's something that a lot of the next generation need to be aware of, like it's their own life. And in saying that, like they need to know that if they don't enjoy what they're going to do, then what is the point of it all? What is the point in studying so hard if, they're studying for something that they don't actually want to do and then go through, having a massive uni debt like me
Uh-huh.
and then having to pay for it doing a job you don't want to do. So,
Yeah.
and I think with the world where it is now, there's so much opportunity. You don't have to go to university to be successful. Like if one day my son goes, I want to be a tradie, all for it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. And I did the same. I didn't know. Actually, I did know when I was younger, all I wanted to do was be in a creative field, acting, voiceovers, all of that sort of stuff. But my parents, and especially my dad, said, oh, you'll be a waitress all your life. Don't do it, blah, blah, blah. So I went into a teaching degree. And I'm lucky because I loved it. I loved the kids, but it wasn't what fulfilled my heart. So it took me a long time, though, to have the courage. And I still don't think I've like stripped away the fears associated with, do you know what I mean, living fully into that passion. So when I hear your story and how you had that courage at such a young age to go, I'm going to do this, like and it's exactly the message I'm wanting to share with everyone, is that you know what gifts you were born with, you know what lights you up. Just take a step towards that, whatever that looks like, find that fulfillment, because that's what we're meant to be here for, I believe. So
I agree with you. And social media is so good now. Like the next generation, they can find someone that's, doing something that they want to do and connect with them and go, can you give me advice? Can you give me some sort of mentorship to help me along this pathway or even help me have a conversation with my parents?
yes, yeah, exactly right. So with all these incredible courageous steps you've taken, is there anything that still scares you?
Well, I'm doing high rocks in 30 days.
Yeah, that's what that would do it. Wow. Okay.
Um, and I think that's what I'm scared of.
Yeah.
I want a good, I know I will finish, but I want a good time. And then I realize I'm also challenging. I think because I need a challenge. I always need a challenge, right?
Yeah.
And so I need a fitness challenge. And I
Mm.
want to get to the point where I'm super fit, but also a mum and, doing all these great things. And then finishing high rocks with my with my high rocks partner, who is also a mum who's in her 40s,
Wow.
and doing it in a reasonable time.
Yep.
So that is my current challenge, and that's what I'm currently scared of. To go, I can't.
What
I
does
hate running, and that's the issue.
yeah, what does it actually entail? What's the event?
So High Rocks is an 8 kilometer circuit, so to speak. So you do 1 kilometer of running, and then you've got various stations between. So after every station, you do another kilometer of running. So it's 8 kilometers worth of running, and then you've got like
Wow.
a series of 100 wall balls, a farmer's carry, and then you've got a sled push and pull, kilometer rowing, a kilometer on the ski erg,
Wow.
um, and also doing various lunges. And I hate lunges.
Oh, neither.
So it is an endurance. It's an endurance.
Yeah.
I would like to call it an endurance race, and it tests your mind and body as well. So right now my training is a lot of running because I hate running, and so you need to reach a safe conversational pace to survive without your legs failing on you during one of the actual main little activities. Because
Mm.
I think the running is the hardest part. The activities not so much, but
Mm.
obviously fatigue gets you. And so
Yeah.
that's when your mind going, you can do it, you have to finish, will keep you going.
I feel like that mindset has kind of got you through a lot, that I can do this, I'm going to push through it, and, that grit and determination.
We'll see. We'll see. I've
Yeah.
never put my body on the line this much before.
Oh, dear. Now, I know you've mentioned you've had a role model, maybe one in particular. Who is that, and what part have they played in your life?
So that would be my mentor, Jim Monday. He was the one I emailed all those years ago asking, can I work for free to see if
Yeah.
this is something I'm interested in? And that is actually what I wrote in the email. And it was, he gave me the career start. He gave me the opportunity. He gave me a job. He believed in me. And I even called him when I was thinking about resigning, going, I think this is my time to leave. And I appreciate everything you've done, even his wife as well, very much like mother, father,
Mm.
role models to me. But it was quite disheartening the way it all happened, and haven't spoken to his wife.
Oh,
But I know if I ever go to Perth, I must go see them both. But it's not to say I won't, I don't communicate because I'm wary of, who he works for and so forth. So I like to keep respect of those professional boundaries too. Yeah.
so he no longer has kind of much, like, you don't really contact him much anymore.
No, just because it's a very sore subject.
Yeah, fair. That's fair enough.
And I will be seeing them in October at our international conference in New Zealand. So we have the Australasian Fire Investigation Conference happening in New Zealand, which is every 2 years. So I'll be seeing him then. I believe he's presenting as well. So see him then, have a catch up, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, I owe a lot of my professional career to him.
Awesome. At this point in time, if you were to write an autobiography, what would the title of that be?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh, actually, disrupt the systems, maybe. I don't know. Something to do, disrupt, rebel. I think that's very much what I've done.
Yeah.
Um, I'd have to think on that, actually. That's a really good question. No one's ever asked me that.
Yeah. I think disrupt is a really good adjective to describe what you have done in so many industries, and for your background and everything. You've taken the path less traveled, and you've certainly carved out your own niche here, and it's definitely disrupted a lot of areas, which I think is amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. No,
I need to look at those notes to understand what you're talking about again.
Okay, so here's another hypothetical. Can you describe in some detail, as much as possible, what your life in 5 years' time might look like?
Oh, I can't say I don't want to be working that much because I love working.
Yep.
But I want to say have a few fire investigators working at my company,
Mhm.
get to the point where parts of my charity have also got paid positions, especially for the Brown Boss Babes program, and get more funding for that, create more programs for that charity as well, but then also diversify the impact for all Australians as well.
Yeah, I love it.
Um, I am wary, I am South Asian, but I was born in Australia. And so this is the land that's given me a lot. And so I want to do what I can to now give back. So that is the plan, hopefully, when I've got more time up my sleeve.
Yeah. Well, I don't know where that's going to be because I'm so busy. Okay, fill in the blank of this one. The purpose of my life is to.
Be happy.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that.
Mm,
Simple. That's
simple
very
and
true.
yes, yes. That like I said, I enjoy what I do. And so
Mm.
money doesn't give me success. It's enjoying what I do that gives me that happiness.
Yeah. And I've got two last questions. They're both what ifs, appropriately named. What if you could only be remembered for one thing? What would you want it to be?
Oh, Brown Boss Babes.
Yeah. Why?
Purely because of the opportunity and inspiration it has given a lot of the South Asian women that I know of, but then also the ones that I've never interacted with but have experienced Brown Boss Babes before.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's already a legacy for you. I think you've changed the lives of so many people. It's
Thank
incredible.
you.
And my final question, what if someone listening right now who is standing exactly where you were at the beginning, what would you want them most to hear?
To follow their instinct and have faith in what they want to do for themselves.
Yeah, perfect. And to be brave, I reckon, if they're
Yeah.
following in your tracks.
Yeah. Be brave and back yourself. I think the hardest thing for most people to do is to back yourself when it feels like the world is against you.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. It is. It brings up all those old fears, the old conditioning, and which I think is why your story is so incredible, because I know that you've had all of that, but you've done it anyway. So thank you for everything you're doing for Southeast Asian women, but also for women entrepreneurs and men. Like, you're just impacting so many different communities, and the role modeling you're setting is phenomenal. So I just thank you for everything you do. I think you're an incredible woman.
Oh, thank you, Jules. That's very sweet of you to say.
And thank you so much for joining me, and I hope you have a wonderful day.